The only person who liked the Hummer was my 90-year-old grandmother. Bad car buying decision number 1, Ford Focus RS. The Ford Focus RS, I made a mistake by falling in love with something from afar and allowing my eyes to blur everything else and going, I wanted it because I had the Fiesta ST, which I loved. And I go, okay, well, the Focus RS is the next bigger, faster thing. And so I pre-ordered it. There were delays. They messed up the ordering system, whatever. By the time they got it at Galpin Ford, they put it, because they like me there, they put it in their Aston Martin showroom on the turntable. So when I go in, it's like, and it was sparkly blue. And I was like, where do I sign? I think maybe a mile or two into my drive home from there, I went, this seat is really uncomfortable, and this car rides like absolute dog shit. Oh God, what have I done? And I didn't buy it, I leased it. I did everything I could to fix the car. I convinced KW to design a set of adaptive shocks for it to fix the ride. I got different wheels that were actually smaller and had more sidewall. I did all kinds of different stuff to try and make the car better. Ultimately, it was so uncomfortable to drive, and to even make it, the ride and stuff, bearable, you needed an $8,000 set of adaptive shocks from Germany, to do it. And so I hated it so much. It was a lesson in, if I'm gonna buy a brand new car, I gotta drive it first. I can't see and then buy. And no one should ever do that. And people do. People do all the time. See, order, buy, and they don't sit in it or anything first. And so you can get away with that sometimes, and it works out. But in this case, especially because I leased it, I got hosed bad. Over 18 months, it cost me $16,000 to drive a Ford Focus that I hated. And that's how I end up now with a Ferrari 328. Because I spent $16K to drive a Focus. Am I gonna drive $16K of value out of this car in 2 years? There's no way that will happen. And so, no more leases. If I hate it, I can sell it. I'll take a loss, but it's gone. And no more buying new cars sight unseen. Another bad one, impulsive trades. Impulsive trades, the worst. And so this one, this is a good story. I was working at Gotham Dream Cars for Rob Ferretti, and I was living in Manhattan and commuting to New Jersey. I had a B6, a 2005 Audi S4, which was a lovely car in silver. I put a Labrie exhaust on it. They're out of business, but Labrie really made the best exhaust on that car. And one day I'm commuting to New Jersey for work. It's a horrific rainstorm. There's flooding everywhere. The highways are like, it's a disaster. It's taken me 2 hours to go 15 miles kind of thing. And I'm driving stick and just hating everything, right? And I'm stopped on like a cloverleaf exit ramp. I'm stopped there. Single lane, just nothing moving. And I'm looking at this grassy knoll here. And I go, if I had a Hummer. If I had a Hummer, I would be out of here right now. And I already was kind of on a thing because I was going to work at Gotham Dream Cars and I wanted a really cool car. And the S4, don't get me wrong, it's a lovely car. It's a very, very nice car. But I wanted something that was a little more flashy. I'm in the exotic car world. I wanted to be, I didn't just want to work there. I wanted to live the lifestyle. Remembering what I had said in the traffic jam, that very day, a guy named Steve Waldy, he's a Lamborghini guy, he's a Hummer guy, and he's a whatever wholesaler out of Jersey. He shows up with a Hummer. And it's a 2001 black over tan wagon. And he goes, hey, look at this thing. It's for sale. And I go, hey, let me have a go in that. So I took it out and took a 15-minute drive in this thing. And I went, well, this isn't as bad as I thought it would be. And on the spot, I traded him straight up for my Audi. H1 Hummer. The value of each car was around $40,000. So it was a straight up trade. And I at the time, wanted to be somebody I wasn't. I wanted to be Hummer guy. I wanted to be in your face. I wanted to be kind of aggressive. I thought I could be, but I wasn't that guy at all. The first week with the Hummer was so fun. So fun. It kept raining that week, and it was deep puddles, 4 feet of water. I mean, really, so fun. And then the next week, someone spit at me. The next week, someone left a bag of dog shit on my hood. Now, I was living in Manhattan with a Hummer. The only parking garage on the Lower East Side that even would allow me to park there charged me $1,100 a month to park it. Okay? It had a 42-gallon diesel tank. But I was working in New Jersey, where diesel was like a penny. So I'd fill it up in Jersey. Never kind. Then I left that job about a month later. And I started commuting to Westchester, which was twice as long. And the gas was twice as expensive. And now, this was just my car. This wasn't like a side fun car. This was my car. And now it's basically like I'm commuting to work in a school bus. You have to actually calculate longer drive times to get places because it's so slow. Because of the portal axles, it does that rocky thing. When you stop, it does this rock. It's very disconcerting. The seats are like Spirit Airlines coach seats. And everyone thinks you're an asshole, basically. Pretty much. Which, if you want to be that defiant person, that's a good way to do it. But ultimately, that's not what I want it to be. I would let anybody drive it. I hated driving it so much. I had a friend who loved driving it, and he really was that defiant asshole. And so he became my driver. So he was like, let me drive the Hummer. I'll drive you around wherever you want. He was like 22. So he would drive me to the clubs in New York City, sit out front in the truck. I mean, it was the stupidest thing. After about 3 months with the Hummer, I just couldn't take it. I was so miserable with this thing. I hated it so much. I drove it to Minnie of Elmsford, and I traded it straight up for a John Cooper Works Mini. And on the way home from the dealer, I got a ticket doing 97 and a 50. The only person who liked the Hummer was my 90-year-old grandmother, who thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And everybody else in my family hated it. And my parents wouldn't let me park it in their driveway. It was like, I don't park it. The DeLorean was the car that made me love cars. When I was a kid, little, and my dad brought me my very first car magazine, there was a DeLorean on the cover. And it changed my perspective as a kid, what a car could be. And that always stuck. And so when I got a little bit of money, it was, I want a DeLorean. And so I found one. And I had the guys at DMC do the full deal. It was very, very low miles. That car was interesting. It was a 2,700-mile car that had been stuck in a storage unit in San Pedro since 1986. The guy bought it. It was a built in 82, revinned in 83 as an 83. First sold in February of 85. It had made 3 trips to the dealer in the first year. The company went under. The guy was upside down on his loan, and he stashed the car and defaulted on the loan. So when we found the car, there was no papers, none. And the bank that held the note was out of business. So I had to I learned about title bonds. That was the first time I learned about title bonds. Here's a teaching moment. If you have a car with no title, you get a title bond. And then it's your car, you register it, but if someone shows up and says, hey, that's not his car, that's my car, they pay that person off. That's how that works. So I got a title bond, and I was able to get it registered. The thing about DeLoreans were, one, that car was, after it was fixed up, it was so nice that actually it was a little too nice to use. And also, DeLoreans are very good at kind of a medium speed cruise. In LA, you've got light to light traffic and you've got bonsai canyoning. and you have almost nothing in between, and it's terrible at both of those things. There's almost nothing you can do to improve it. People change engines and stuff, but it's not the engine. The problem is the chassis. It's a Y-frame chassis that if you put more than like 250 pounds of torque through it, it'll twist like a pretzel. And it has 14-inch wheels with tiny, tiny little brakes. And so you can't put a big brake kit on it without putting big wheels, which makes it look heinous. So you pretty much have to like a DeLorean for what it is and be able to overlook what it is not, and then just leave it alone. So that wasn't a bad car buying decision, not least of which because I turned, I believe, a $13,000 profit on that DeLorean over 3 years. So I sold it on Bring a Trailer and did really well. So I don't regret that one, but it was definitely a lesson in buying cars that you not just wanted when you were a kid, that you want to actually use now. Yeah. If West Side was finished when I needed it to be finished, I probably would have kept that car and looked at it in the garage and driven it once a month, and it would have been all right. But because it took me 5 years to build my place, I did not have the luxury of keeping cars around that I wasn't going to use.
Shopping for insurance can be an absolute nightmare, but it doesn't have to be thanks to Policy Genius. They're our sponsor for this month at VINwiki, and you can visit them at the link in the description below. You tell them a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your property, and they find the best deal by shopping amongst all the major carriers at the same time. In fact, you can bundle things like homeowners insurance and auto insurance, and the average user that bundles both of those things saves about $1,100 a year. So be sure to check them out and thank them for their support of VINwiki.